Take a very intense interest in it because this is our responsibility, of course, just to nurture this young generation so that they can maintain the trend of the research not only at this institute but particularly this region of the country. So this is what I can say.
It often takes decades before the commercial implication of an important scientific discovery is fully realized. I'll give you an example from our own institute. Raman effect was invented at ICS in the 1920s. However, its Nobel Prize winning inventor Sir C.V. Raman did not have the remotest idea that scientific principles that he invented would someday be used to perform intraoperative brain cancer detection in humans. Thus, the commercial potential of a particular discovery is often unanticipated and extends to many unrelated industries and applications, as was the case with Raman spectroscopy.
These days, interdisciplinary research targeting important problems are in vogue even at ICS. Let's hear about soft matters.
We just want to know what do you mean by soft matter.
A soft matter is a special type of condensed matter which containing of various physical states that can be deformed either by applying stress or by thermal flux.
Why these materials should be of interest to anyone?
Materials covers a wide range of scientific disciplines including physics, chemistry, biology and obviously materials. People are because of what getting into.
What kind of activities going on in this very institute?
Development of supramolecular gels which is external stimuli sensitive and they are derived from a low molecular weight building block which are mainly of peptides or amphiphiles, and when they interact through uncovered interactions they form a supramolecular fibrillary network, and within that network the solvents in which the self-assembly takes place gets entrapped and the flows get arrested. And because of these materials it has a diverse application, as I said earlier, in drug delivery, tissue engineering, separations of the different contaminants from the wastewater, as well as in the organic electronics is the development of polymer based software, mainly the polymeric micelles, polymeric vesicles, and because of its nature it can entrap a drug or cargo inside its container and which can be specifically delivered to desired places. And the other trend is there are different carbon allotropes of nanoscale dimensions like carbon nanotube, graphene. These kind of materials are also becoming useful as a scaffold for developing soft material which shows promising application as cellular transport.
What is the future challenges in this area?
But the greatest challenges lies at is developing strategies that can provide a precise control not over its supramolecular self-assembly but also at the macroscopic dimension. So that's like achieving structural precisions of different channeling, spatial orientations of the molecules. These are some pressing issues which have been actively pursued in different research laboratories across the globe.
Material science research requires a thorough knowledge of physics and chemistry. Let's hear from our material physicist.
In ICS, we work on diverse topics ranging from biophysics to quantum materials like spin liquids and topological insulators. So I'd like to give you a brief overview what is being done at ICS. Particularly people working in biophysics and tackling problems like cell division, they work in a scale of macroscopic continuum which is about 100 nanometers. And here one can basically look at a system as continuum macroscopic system, and they can use continuum models to understand that, and this is essentially the domain of classical physics. While the same biophysicists, when they want to look at the structure of proteins, or we have also physicists who are looking at nanomaterials, they would like to get an atomistic description, and where the length scale is typically between 10 to 100 nanometers. But I think the bulk of our activities are essentially concentrated in a really microscopic scales, right, where we have electrons and the interaction between the electrons, and that's where there's a world of quantum mechanics. And I would say that both theorists as well as experimentalists essentially concentrate on this quantum phenomenon.
Right. There are a couple of our colleagues who are working on these fascinating things called Dirac materials, the examples being graphene and topological insulators. So even though these are lattice systems where the microscopic interactions are non-relativistic, but the excitations are actually described by relativistic Dirac equation, and that's what makes them very fascinating. For topological insulators, one increases the spin-orbit coupling. One can even induce some additional topological features, so the bulk is insulating, whereas the surface becomes gapless, and it's also a very interesting state of matter. But there is another very large class of systems which are actually extremely strongly interacting, and there the strong interactions can actually stabilize new phases of matter.
Perhaps our most unusual feature is an emphasis on the interplay at the boundary among various cross disciplines of science. Our strength at boundary informs our research and training in areas such as biophysics, cell biology, genomics, agricultural sciences, environmental and energy research, molecular medicine, material science, quantum structures and string theory, etc.
How about living materials, biological sciences at ICS? Biological research at ICS is interdisciplinary, fostering strong collaborations between several research groups covering broad areas like disease models, diagnostics and drug development.
30 years ago, scientists were unable to offer a coherent answer to a question: what happens to cause a cell to become cancerous? They knew that cancer originated from cells that began to proliferate in uncontrolled manner within the body. They knew that chemicals, radiation and viruses could trigger this change, but exactly how it happened was a hidden mystery. Today, we know that cancer is a disease of molecules and genes, and we even know many of the molecules and genes involved in this disease. Dr. Prosenjit Sen and his group have shown that tissue factor, which is basically blood coagulation factor, which in the cancer cell it induces the signal through PAR pathway. It is not only that, this tissue factor when passed through the PAR signaling pathway secrete the microvesicle which induces the pro-cancerous behavior to the neighboring cells. Another protein, topoisomerase, which is involved in the DNA relaxation during replication. Dr. Benubrata Das and his group have shown that this topoisomerase is overexpressed in cancer cells. When they inhibited this topoisomerase activity, they found the cancer cells have been killed. Dr. Rupa Mukhopadhyay has shown that the drug binds to the DNA, and during that binding lots of knot structure appears, and that knot structure prevents the DNA replication process, which basically inhibits the cancer progression.
Now we will move from cancer to Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is a neurodegenerative disorder which causes senile dementia and has been associated with amyloid beta peptides. Heme binding to these A beta peptides are the possible causes of this disease. The research on diseases is complemented by research on drug development. The research group of Dr. Surojit Sinha has patented a small molecule iboga, which is a possible substitute for morphine, and this has been successfully tested on mice. The research group of Dr. Rajiv Goswami has synthesized a series of potential anti-cancer drugs like cytospolide, Mycalol, which are showing promising activity against breast cancer targets.
Altogether, these studies in ICS can provide the information to other researchers for developing new therapeutic strategies.
Modern materials from a chemist's point of view.
Advancement of civilization is linked with invention and development of variety of functional materials. Modern society needs many advanced materials for industrial application, healthcare products and environment safety. Development of different nanomaterials keep hopes for a possible solution to these demands. Researchers around the world are using nanomaterials for efficient light harvesting, smart drug delivery carriers, photocatalyst, advanced bioimaging probe, water purification, healthcare applications. Many international industries are investing for advanced products based on these nanomaterials. In ICS, we focus on various applications of nanomaterials. One of them is to develop nanomaterials for efficient solar energy conversion and photocatalysis. In another areas, we are making functional nanoparticle or nanobioconjugates as advanced optical probe for imaging based detection and monitoring of biochemical activities. In another areas, we are developing nanoparticle based composite materials for separation of toxic pollutants from water and sunlight based degradation of pollutants. We also make polymer based nanoparticles that can be used as smart drug delivery carriers.
Everyone talks about energy crisis today. So how is Team ICS handling it?
The epic problem of 21st century regarding the energy generate green, clean, sustainable energy at cheaper price.
Well, it's kind of obvious because if you consider the fact that when we are targeting industrialization, we have huge energy. At ICS, what's the energy landscape is like? What is that we are doing?
Yeah, we have taken really serious initiative at ICS. Actually, we had got a long-term history regarding this energy generation. And this unit was basically working on the silicon solar cells. The focus has been shifted to the other materials. We have got a nodal point of a big bilateral project at ICS along with US. This is called Sirius project. Under this project, our scientists here have done enormous amount of work. We are also doing energy generation at the smaller scale, which is basically done by using some nanomaterials, particularly focusing on the core shell heterostructures, or metal semiconductor heterostructures, some sulfide or oxide materials, even some polymer composite, and we can readily generate efficiency of the order of 6 to 7%.
Basically, you are saying that the short-term goal of the team here at ICS is to generate cheaper sources of energy and some really long-term goals of very sophisticated ways of doing it better.
Yeah.
Hydrogen as a fuel is coming. The question is, you want to buy it or you want to sell it. It's as simple as that. And you will see there are groups which are working in generating methanol, liquid fuel. There are groups that are actually splitting water to generate oxygen and hydrogen, and it's clean because when you burn hydrogen and oxygen, you get water. Here's a video that I'd like to show you that people at ICS have developed. This is a catalyst. It's cheap. It's made of iron, and it can generate hydrogen very efficiently, very fast from water. And that's what the entire world is going after. And ICS has dedicated teams which are trying to get the same result faster than.
Generation is not only important, transfer is also very important here. So our scientists have worked along this line, and you can see that these solar panels which have been made out using some zinc oxide materials. In addition to that, little bit unconventional, that garbage nylon can be used for generation of energy. So using this, our scientists here have generated voltages per strike, say 50 volts or more than that at it is. And they have shown that plenty of LEDs, for example, here we can see 36 LEDs can be lit.
So these are all made at ICS?
Yes.
Drinking water is another burning problem in India. Scientists at ICS are actively working on it.
Today we will be discussing about water purification and environmental problems. One of the major problems our society facing today is the availability of sufficient safe drinking water, and this is a global problem. There are different kind of contaminants which are making this problem. If you see this Ganges basin, and it is a full of arsenic. Similarly, if you see this fluoride, this fluoride world map is throughout the globe, how to remove arsenic. So this is the method that our scientists have developed. So here we are using one kind of zinc sulfide nano rod, and that is used to purify this arsenic containing water, making mineral type structure with the arsenic. In other approach, our institute is working to develop, like say, organic receptor which can capture this anionic pollutant inside the molecular capsule, and that carbonate capsule can extract chromate, fluoride or sulfate from water.
We have been working also to develop different methods for removal of organic pollutants from water. But the main problem with this method is that it's disposal, because we can remove those things from water, but then if we just throw it again, then it will again be leached into the environment. And in biological system, different bacteria in soil, they carry out this type of transformation reaction. One such toxic compound called bisphenol, this bisphenol is biodegraded by soil bacteria. Inspired by this reaction, we have been working towards the development of methods where we can mimic this reaction, which will eventually lead to and translate this method to a more viable solution working with such kind of organic pollutants in wastewater.
Since its inception, in recognition of their extraordinary research accomplishments, ICS faculties have received numerous national and international awards and accolades, including the first and the only Nobel Prize in Physical Sciences from this country. Many distinguished scholars over the world are associated with ICS starting from the day's inception. We are equally proud of our former and present students and associates, some of whom are now leaders at various universities, government laboratories, and private industries throughout the world. As various aspects of science and its application evolves with time, so does the ICS. It is our unified view of the sciences and of their importance for
Institute ICS, which has such an enormous legacy in Indian science. After that, now we are going to start our program, the talks at the popular level that's going to start, and as I mentioned to you already, well, I can see some new faces who have just arrived. So for those of you, we are now going to start with a talk lecture by Dr. Bhupati Chakravarti. Let me give you a small introduction to Professor Chakravarti. Dr. Bhupati Chakravarti is an experimental condensed matter physicist who did his PhD from this institute, ICS, way back in 1983. He has more than 30 years of experience in teaching physics at undergraduate level. First, he taught in Chakda College and then in City College, Kolkata. Dr. Chakravarti served as the departmental head in both these colleges. He was an NSTS scholar and is a prolific writer in both Bengali and English on popular science and in the areas of physics education, and he has published a large number of articles and papers in different scientific journals and periodicals. Dr. Chakravarti is actively involved in the training and selection of the Indian students who represent our country in the international as well as in the Asian Physics Olympiad. Dr. Chakravarti is the General Secretary of the Indian Association of Physics Teachers, IAPT, which is an all-India body of physics teachers that works for the betterment of physics teaching and also physics learning at all levels, and has more than 7,000 life members. In fact, his lectures and demonstrations of experimental physics to school and college students always enthrall the audience. Let's all welcome Dr. Bhupati Chakravarti to present his talk entitled Physics in the Sporting Arena. Let's welcome Dr. Bhupati.
We know that this National Science Day, where we are celebrating it, let me take this opportunity to pay my homage to Sir C.V. Raman, and of course if I get some opportunity I shall be talking about him later on. Now let me straight away come down to my talk. As I told you, this is on the physics in the sporting arena, and what we are really going to talk about is this. You know that large number of scientific principles are really being used in the sports field. You know, the modern trainers for the athletes